Hey everybody, this is Andy here at Montolio, and we are back for another Vintage League as we explore Mono Green Bazaar a little bit further. I have enjoyed this deck that features Hexdrinker in it and the Turbo lands to pump it up into Progenitus mode. We're playing against Crazy Diamonds. How do I feel about this hand? We got a Force of Vigor. This obviously is somewhat reliant on a reasonable Once Upon a Time here. Without that, it's pretty bad because we've just got the Cradles. It does have interaction turn one. We find it bizarre this hand actually becomes very good. Uh, that said, I think we can just do better. And this is an example of doing much, much better. So I think we're going to put a Bazaar away here. Unfortunately, we are on the draw. What makes this nice, this hand, is we've got a Mental Misstep. We also have a Force of Vigor in a pinch, and we are going to be able to Bazaar, discard our Root Wallet, and two of the other cards we draw will have one card left in hand and a hollow one. So it actually, the logistics of it work out reasonably well. I don't think we worry about that. One of the problems that this deck has is, if you catch the wrong side of it, is that you've got cards that you're really not looking to discard in Hexdrinker and Collector Roof, and we lose some level of discard equity in this deck. We're not happy to pitch cards that we're hoping to cast later, but that's you can't have everything. Having those cards equally in your deck is very powerful as well. Wooded Foothills and a Ruby. How very interesting. Okay. I'm not going to Vigor and Mox here. If we find a Vengevine off this, it's very powerful. Excuse me. So we could be walking into a Hull Breach here, but I don't think we have the luxury of playing around that. These are fairly easy pitches. I could come off Force of Vigor here and just hardcast the Hexdrinker, which is not bad. I'm farthest away from this. So I want to play around days. I think it's probably not necessary to do so. It's a little bit of a blowout if they have days, but I think I would prefer to hold this as a discard spell or for the ability to pump up Root Wall on next turn. I think these are all reasonable things to be doing. And, if my opponent has something like a main deck Tabernacle, that's just the world we're living in. Espresso iteration, yep. I'm not overly concerned about Wasteland here. We've already done our onboard damage here. These are going to be able to do some work for sure. And if this is truly a mid-range deck that we're playing against, then Wasteland. Okay, yep, and this is fine. So I can pump Root Wall up, or I can come off Force of Vigor. I think the correct line is to come off Force of Vigor here, to be honest with you. Like, it's a lot of pressure on the table, and if this is indeed a mid-range deck that we're playing against, threatening the Hexdrinker is no joke. So first things first, let's see if I can get it into play. If they want to counter my Mox, it's fine. I am going to play around Daze here. This could fetch a Force of Will too, and if it does, you know that we're playing against mid-range, and they're going to have a little bit of difficulty managing my board here. Or that's the hope anyways. So we've now come off of Vigor, and we're very reliant on a Mental Misstep to be able to do our work for us. A Gaia's Cradle off the top is very powerful here as well. It'll allow us to hardcast Force of Vigor in addition to Turbo our Hexdrinker, which of course would be the line. We do have an answer for a Lightning Bolt here. Of note, our opponent is up to 6 cards in hand here. Okay, strip mine. They probably will take our Yavimaya here. It makes sense. Yeah. Yes, Doc Faden can take our Mox here, which is also pretty reasonable. The problem that they're facing is that I'm coming in with a pretty good army here. Well, they took out my Hollow One, of course. So we might have some trouble getting through that here. Love a land off the top. That is not what I'm looking for, unfortunately. I am in the upkeep going to... Well, I feel like taking their red source away here is not irrelevant. Like, what are the chances that they have a Flusterstorm here? I think I'm going to do it. It's aggressive. Like, they could be having a main deck Flusterstorm here. But I'd imagine that they did know about the Force of Vigor, though. I believe it was in my hand when they Gitaxian and probed in my opener. Yeah, okay. Collector, okay. Sure. That's an easy misstep, that one. So a bit of a tough spot here. We really are handcuffed now. We can't do much, but if I can just keep pumping up my Hexdrinker, it's going to eventually be able to take over the game, and I need to pump it up one more time to put it out of instant range. Can't do much here. We're playing a top deck war now. Gaia's Cradle would be amazing for me. Bazaar would be amazing for me. Force of Vigor, okay. Not really what I need, but... I maybe I Vigor this in the upkeep here. And the reason to do this now is that if I do find one more mana to be able to pump my Hexdrinker up, it is bigger than the Collector Roof. He's not drawing very well, though. We do have a substantial amount of lands in this deck. We did, the Force of Vigor was relevant though. Getting rid of our hollow one there was good. Down to 6, so they have something here. Could be an expressive iteration. Like, Gaia's Cradle's just literally the best thing that I could draw here. Oko is definitely going to take over this game extremely quickly. Yep. We need the Cradle now, I guess. I guess a Bazaar is also looking fairly strong here. I mean, we've had 5 draws here to find a land, before Oko came down, and we faltered. So we gave our opponent an out here where I don't really think they had a good one. Wasteland is nice for them. Yeah, they can't attack here. Not yet. Next turn they can probably. Collector Roof. Yeah, they got me. All right. Like, you may be looking at saying, well, what if you draw a Gaia's Cradle there or something, a Bazaar of Baghdad? Like, it's just not going to be able to overwhelm them in time. So, yes, I could have gone, 3-5, but they're going to put Oko on this before it has protection from everything. There's just no getting around it, turning into a 3-3, so it's just not likely to be relevant. This feels like a rug deck. I don't see Force of Vigor being a huge player here. Like, I am not overly concerned about my graveyard with this deck, and that has been my early synopsis of it. Like, I just have not felt like it's been that much of a player. This is a little bit worse, Hogak. I think maybe I'll keep Force of Vigor. Wonder if they're Tinker. I'm going to try this out, guys. I do feel like Hexdrinker was relevant there. They could very well be a Tinker deck, though. Let's try something like this. I don't want to get rid of my Hooting Mandrills and my Hogak, all of them. I feel like, if they have Leyline, obviously it's really bad to have these. Hopefully I can discard them at some point to a Bazaar of Baghdad. But if they don't have it, these are very powerful, and that's why I'm cutting them in half. I don't want all of them, or I don't want none of them, because it's contingent on whether they have the Leyline. These are extremely powerful cards that can just win a game, particularly Hogak, but Hogak's a lot worse of a card if they have Leyline of the Void. Like, this actually can be cast off of a Bazaar or something like that. Or, excuse me, a Gaia's Cradle. Despite 6 mana is no joke. I think this was reasonable. To be honest, I'm a little surprised we lost that game. How do I feel about this? I'm going to try it for science. If this gets countered, it's obviously extremely bad for me, but I think that's really aggressive, countering Once Upon a Time when the player's on the play. Like, this is a gamble, without a doubt. If I find a Bazaar, it's fantastic. If I find a green source, I can live with it. And Bazaar is fantastic in the event that I find a hollow one or another root wall or a mox or something like that, a green mox specifically, or a lotus to be able to cast my Hexdrinkers, to be able to animate the vine. Most people do not counter this. It's very aggressive to do so. Okay, we did not do well here. What do I want, a Yavimaya, or do I want the basic forest? They are playing a forest. I think Wasteland is just too much of a scary card here. So we obviously did not do very well at all in this particular situation, but it's okay. Well, maybe it's okay. I'm not feeling good about it for sure. That was not the way it was supposed to turn out, but at least I did find a forest to be able to get myself going here. This could be bait, but it also could be a sign of weakness. Like if they've gone and they've got a needle here that they're baiting for my Bazaar, it's totally fine because we don't have one. Not going to play around days here. So a bit awkward. We're just looking for lands off the top. Any type of lands for me are good. Okay, his Cradle is fantastic. A Yavimaya, which they're all at the bottom, and a Bazaar, a Wasteland, all very good. I mean, Bazaar would be my best draw here. Yep, got a Wasteland, okay. Yep. What is this? Another DAC? Okay. Mm-hmm. Not ideal. I guess Cradle's our best draw here. I am only running 3 Cradles on my list. I think the consensus is that 4 is very good in this deck. I'm not sure about it. Okay, that was baller. That was really, really nice. And I understand, like, if they have a Tabernacle here, this is certainly not optimal. We got the Vine to be able to deal with Dak here. And what's it going to take for me to cast here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cost me everything, right? I'm going to do it. And if they got a Tabernacle, it is what it is. We're going to kill that Dak. Get it off the table. And it is pretty devastating if they have the Tabernacle in this particular situation because we have such a devastating board. But it's very realistic that they do. But we have an 8/8 on the table. EE, okay. Or EI. An EE would actually be pretty scary too because it'd wipe out 4 of my creatures. But I still would have a strong army. So we have lethal on the table here. Ancestral Recall, okay. Cannot stop that. So hopefully they didn't find it. Okay. Very awkward win. We drew into a Bazaar, which I guess just took over the game, but it would have been interesting to see how that game shook out with the two Hexdrinkers there. Like, had that just been a land that tapped for mana, like let's say it was a Wasteland, we would have got that up to 3 this turn, and I guess we were probably quite a ways away from being able to pump it up into Progenitus range, but so we didn't see a ley line that game. I mean, my opponent is showing me a moderate amount of Moxen here. Maybe on the draw, I'm a little bit more interested in a Force of Vigor. Let's try something like this. Well, same thing, Hexdrinker into Hexdrinker. It seems reasonable. Obviously, these hollow ones are pretty bad, but if we draw on a Bazaar, it could be okay, and we can also cycle them. I'm very interested to see what these Hexdrinkers can do. Like, this is, to be clear, you don't ever really want to keep a hand like this. If our Yavimaya gets wastelanded, it's not ideal. But I'm going to play the Hexdrinker here and see if we can get it going. A Bazaar just blows this hand right open. Okay, just played a Wooded Foothills Pass. Interesting. It's an example here of us not being reliant on the Bazaar. And I acknowledge Bazaars would be way better in this hand, just way better. I get it. But my opponent has a ley line of the void. They drop a Pithing Needle here or something like that. It's like, okay, you focused your hand on hate to stop me from doing the Bazaar aspect of my deck, and this is a type of hand that can circumvent that. At least somewhat, anyways. Now, we could get completely blown out here with a lightning bolt into a wasteland, and we'll be feeling really silly about ourselves. But, that said, we're not just dead. Now, my opponent is sitting on their lands here, and I find it a little bit peculiar. But I'm going to try it anyways, keep doing my thing here. They probably are telegraphing a Gaia's Cradle here, so I hopefully don't get blown out. Could be in a braid. My opponent is contemplating forcing this here. They did not. Guess I'm going to cast a Root Walla here to try and get my Gaia's Cradle count up. And if they're... I tapped the wrong land, the wrong piece. Let's get in. So my opponent's up to something here. My opponent is up to something. So they have the Wasteland, and that's telegraphed. I got rid of my Gaia's Cradle here. A little bit of a mistake there. I hope it doesn't cost me with reference to pumping up my Hexdrinker. In all fairness, I got distracted by a text that came through, and that is my excuse. Okay, well, love a Bazaar off the top. I think that would really change my game. Another Gaia's Cradle would be great. Something's coming now. Yep, you got my Cradles. Taking damage here. Obviously, my hand looks really bad right now. But if we can find a Bazaar, it'll really change my outlook of things. And of note, Yavamaya's Cradle allows me to pay. For a Tabernacle. Well, seems pretty good, doesn't it? Don't want to discard a Bazaar here. I feel like having the extra land here might be critical in case I get Tabernacle. Tabernacle is the card that scares me the most here. I'm not going to play around it, but I'm going to mitigate it somewhat to be able to give myself a better opportunity to get my Vengevine back if my Vine dies. There's a number of things that could go wrong here, right? Like, oh, very nice. Okay, got completely roasted there. I guess that was not a good line. Well, my opponent's got all these surgicals in their deck. I mean, certainly not unreasonable to do that, but if they drop a Tabernacle, I feel a lot better about myself. I guess not really, because I'd still rather have two hollow ones on the table than any of these other creatures, but these, if they need a red source, they will have to lose mana or life to do that. My opponent still has a mitt full here. Okay, they are going down here, so they're making their move. Ponder, okay. I'm still not really sure what's going on with my opponent's deck here. I don't know if this is a combo deck or if it's just rug. Like, this is not a card that you normally see in rug. They've shuffled their library. I'm just not sure what's going on here. Hopefully they don't have Time Walk. Just going in. Remember, they may have to pay a life here. Just gonna pump. Okay, there we have it. My opponent always very polite and gracious in defeat, which I certainly appreciate. It is a rare thing on Magic Online. Good game to you, Crazy Diamonds. And yeah, there's the side of the deck, guys, that just does not typically require a Bazaar. Yes, I did get the opportunity to top Bazaar and had a very potential broken setup with it, but my opponent smartly had the surgical extraction, and I poorly discarded a hollow one. But we didn't need it. We just were able to beat down. And of note, Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, very powerful here in this particular game. We had a very fair start to our game. This into Hexdrinker, that into Hexdrinker again. Yep, not bad. We'll take it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Feel free to leave any comments, and we're going to see you for round 2.